I first met Kumar Pereira when he was the art director for the Serendip magazine, that's the Sri Lankan Airlines magazine, long ago. Then when I move on to Australia, then I hear of Kumar again. This time people are talking about Kumar because he was among the first 10 of Australian Masterchef. I didn't know that Kumar could cook, and here we have Kumar Pereira. He's come down to Sri Lanka to do a charity dinner, and he's my guest today on Patikada. Good morning, Kumar.
Morning.
Now what happens is, now you are an art director, right, or you're still art, and then you're a design teacher, then you become a food writer, and you took part in Australian Masterchef. How did this happen?
I've always had an interest in food, love cooking, and I think a lot of graphic designers in particular, are good cooks. It's that creative process. I cooked in all the countries I lived in, so I just love food. And my mum was an excellent cook, so it just flowed on from there. And I just love food, so I learned to cook it and cooked for the family. That was it.
So that when you said you were born here, right? You were born
yes,
here?
Born here.
Born here and live, so that's where now. But coming back, really the viewers will want to know, how did you take part in Australian Masterchef? What happened on that journey?
The family, I loved the show. I saw it in England, I saw it in Australia. Thought it was achievable. I loved what they were doing on it because it was home cooking. And my colleagues, when I was teaching, I used to cook a lot and entertain. They said, oh, go on, you have to be on MasterChef, you should try, and I just didn't. But the family insisted, and eventually I just thought, well, I'll give it a go and see what happens. So I went online and applied, and I was surprised that I was asked for an audition. And then eventually got in, process of eliminations, and was chosen the top 50, top 25, and then got on the show. And that kind of changed my life completely.
And then what did you cook? The Sri Lankan food, or what happened there?
They were expecting me to do Sri Lankan food. I like to do experimental food. So it's basically Sri Lankan or from the 4 countries I've lived in. So I just do my version. So it's like a contemporary take on whatever I fancy.
So did they introduce you as a Sri Lankan Australian, or how did they?
They saw me as a Sri Lankan Australian. They expected me to use spicy food, which I did. I did do curries, I did do prawn curries, but I did my version of it, which was very different. And I think initially they weren't very happy, but the reaction of the audience proved that it was the right thing to do.
Now I remember, I remember walking along with you in Sydney and all, then people stopped you and recognize. I still remember that. So you, after the success of MasterChef, only you did this cookbook?
Yes, I did.
Now let me show Kumar's family cookbook. I'm sure you can have a look. This is Kumar's family cookbook. And then, and then what's important about this is now, you see lots of other books, but there are photographs. I know a little bit of food photography, but Kumar made the difference because he's an art director, he's a graphic artist. So you made this must be the first book which doesn't have photographs, because people talk of appetite appeal.
Yes. Well, the story of the book was, I did some recipes for my children when my wife and I went to England, and they're both good cooks, but they wanted to know how to cook certain things, their favorites. So I started writing and drawing the pictures just to make it more interesting on little sheets of paper. I just used a notebook. And I did about 12 and left it for them when we were in Europe. And when I took photocopies to Europe, people there, our friends, saw them and they said, oh, we want some copies of these. And that kind of gave me the idea of doing it. And of course, when I went on MasterChef, to keep myself sane, I kept a sketchbook. So I recorded everything I did, and it got picked up on camera, been picked up by a publisher, and they said, well, why don't you do a cookbook and include your illustrations? So that was the story of that.
So this is a difference. So then, I'm sure everybody knows that Sri Lankan omelette is very popular. Let me show the Sri Lankan omelette. Now, can you tell us, Kumar, what's special? I go and ask for everywhere I go, I ask for a Sri Lankan omelette. Nothing like the omelette which is made at home.
Yeah.
Let's tell our viewers about the Sri Lankan omelette.
I think it's the ingredients that go into it. It's just got a little bit of spice. So you've got the onions, you've got the chilies, you can put curry leaves into it. It just lifts up the game, you know, that much, and it makes it much more interesting. And I think what we do, or the Sri Lankans do, is they then curry it. So it takes it, you know, lifts it up again another level. So there's so many dimensions to it, which makes it much more interesting than a regular.
And then now, I mean, it's really amazing when you gave me this book long ago. I mean, you talk about your family, you talk about the starters, and what's your favorite dish?
I don't have any favorites. I think my philosophy is I use what's seasonal, I use what's fresh. A, it's cheaper,
Yeah.
B, the quality is better. So I'm guided, and I grow a lot of my own stuff in my little garden.
Yeah, I've seen,
So
yeah.
I just pick what's growing best and then use that, and that's the basis.
And also I must tell the viewers that Kumar is in Sri Lanka to do a charity dinner. This is for leprosy, or the laduru, what we say, to help the leprosy patients, to do a charity dinner. And then Kumar also comes to Sri Lanka with Australians. You bring about 10
10 to 12,
Australians.
yes. Well, it's all over the world. There's
All over the
Australia,
world.
England and Americans.
And then you do culinary tours.
Yeah.
How do you do that, Kumar?
Well,
I'll come to your
okay.
food, this what, but how do you do this culinary tour?
It's very fascinating because we take them through the cultural sites, the historic sites, the tea country, and at each place we stay in, I do a demo, a food demo, and I introduce them to things like kurakan, things like hoppers, show them how it's made, and then I do a dinner or a lunch or a breakfast using local ingredients, and again using things that are available in that particular region. So if I'm in the East Coast, then I'd use really good fish and make something, but I kind of tailor make it to more a Western palate. So I've used Sri Lankan ingredients, and it's my version of a curry. And I don't tend to do authentic Sri Lankan food because everyone here does it better, and they all have their own way. So I have my way. That's it.
But no, Kumar, like you, Peter, you all have taken Sri Lankan food to the world. The very few people have done that. But coming back, I must tell my viewers, when I went for Kumar's book launch in Sydney at the beautiful Writers Centre, I think this was this book, right?
Yeah.
And then I was so surprised the way you served kiribat. I think I want you to tell the viewers, I mean the way you presented, I have never had kiribat like that. And it was only I think myself and Nalin Patikuri Koral, I mean only 2 Sri Lankans, and among all the other Australians and other people from other countries. It was amazing. I think Sri Lankans should know how you present the food. I'd like you to take our viewers through that, Kumar.
Well, I think Sri Lankan food is really amazing. It's healthy, it's fresh, it's good for you, and they don't do much to it. The only drawback I find is people are bound by tradition, and they like to show things or do things the way it's always been done. I've always broken boundaries. I like to do things my way, and I know it's kind of the rebel in me, and I want to do something new. But I think to break people into like Sri Lankan cuisine, you've got to come to some sort of compromise. So I use the ingredients, but I also use techniques or maybe methods from the West to bring them together. And the kiribat, it's a very nice traditional thing to start off, with this first of the month or New Year. So and I was determined to have kiribat at that function, but I wanted to present it in a way that it had appeal to a Western audience. So I decided to make them into little bowls, and I stuffed them with sambal. So there was an element of surprise. So I still stuck to tradition, but had this element of surprise, and it has appeal.
And I saw everybody ate kiribat, and I had more than one, and then I'll let end, because I think viewers are very keen. I mean, you know about Kumar's journey, but especially, they are interested in food and the recipes. I'm going to show this mini rotis with prawn badu. Mini rotis with prawn badu.
That's part of a thing that I came up with for a boutique hotel, and I called it podi camel.
Yeah, podi camel, like shorty.
Shorty, but it was a miniature version of a traditional thing.
Yeah.
And I did it the first time for my wife's party again, and I made mini hoppers as a canapé.
Yeah.
So I think it's showing food or bringing traditional food in a new way.
Yeah, like now, but you say now, we say short eats, right? The short eats are rolls and patties and all, right? But you call this short eats or ketikam?
Yeah, I call it podikam. It's a small meal.
Podikam.
So I do a miniature maspang,
yeah,
a tiny one.
Miniature maspang, yeah.
And it's a canapé, so it's bringing Sri Lankan food, but presenting it in a new way.
So there's a mini maspang.
Yeah.
But so that means what you are saying is, instead of serving
a big one
or cutlets, I'm saying cutlets and patties, we can do our own thing.
Yeah.
Maspang, then our roti, all that, instead of serving those, make it very Sri Lankan.
So I really enjoy serving Sri Lankan food, and I wanted to have appeal to a Western audience. It's bridging the gap, and the way I can do that is to make it smaller, so people get a taste of everything in one hit.
Yeah, and I need to go like back and forth, but you said that your mom or mother was a very good cook. I mean, everybody talks, they all start with the mother, you know, we say, you know, if the amma gives sambal and rice, we can eat that, or we always say, if she prepares poison, she'll prepare that you can eat. People say that. Let's talk about your mother.
Well, she was an amazing cook for the time she was, and she was, I mean, I grew up in the 60s. She was making pasta, she was making ravioli. And for a Sri Lankan woman who lived at the time in the 60s, and she was a very creative cook. She traveled a lot with my dad, and they would come back with, you know, she'd been on, you know, gone good restaurants and experienced good food. So she started experimenting, and I just followed suit, and I just did my own thing, learned from her. But I think what's nice about that is you remember your parents and what they do, and my sons take great pride now, and they're very good cooks, to say that they've learned from me.
So they watch you cook?
Oh yeah.
Normally it's the mother, but here they watch the father
me,
cooking.
And I get credit for it now, and I think I'm changing that, a whole generational attitude. Instead of crediting your mother, you're crediting your father, and I think that's wonderful.
And going through this, this amazes me, Kumar. Now I want to show this stuffed beetle leaf corns. Stuffed beetle leaf corns. This is very unique, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you please? I mean, if I will give you the book, you can read from this. There's stuffed beetle leaf corns, and then there is kadale, right? It's wonderful the way you have portrayed the kadale. Now, can you give us the recipe of this stuffed beetle leaf cones? How do you make it, or you want me to get the book, or you remember it? Yeah.
Again, when I'm asked to do parties and doing canapes, and if I want to showcase Sri Lankan food, I use a lot of street food as the starting, and then present it, as I said, in a contemporary way. So the kadale cones are actually based on traditional kadale, but making it much smaller. So it becomes something that you can have at a party. It's just a nibble, it's a canapé, so it's a small taste of it rather than the big one. And that's my kind of philosophy.
Now,
and with the Beetle Leaves, I use a spiced pork or beef or chicken mix. It's based on a Thai lab, which is a spicy salad, but I use the Sri Lankan ingredients and then stuff it into beetle leaves. And
so this is like the saravita. You remember
exactly.
saravita?
It's based on
so you make the beetle and you
stuff
put either. You can put anything.
Anything. So whatever people prefer. I've done vegetarian versions.
Vegetarian or chicken. Yeah. So this must be a first.
Well, it's good. I guess I know. I like, as I said, I like breaking the mold. I like doing things that are original, and that's the designer in me.
But in Australia, how do you get the bulat or the beetle?
I actually grow bulat in my garden.
So this is very interesting. Kumar Pereira, who lives in Sydney, grows bulat.
Because you can buy it at the Thai shops, and I love growing things.
You have in Thai?
Oh yeah, there's a Thai town in Sydney, and you can buy everything. But I was having the bulat stalks in a glass of water to keep it fresh, and I noticed it started rooting. And once I thought, well, if it's got roots on it, it'll grow. So I planted it, and now I've got a lovely bulat creeper.
And also now here I want to say now this is shall we say Mama's rich cake, or we say Amma's rich cake. As we say, this is Kumar's Mama and Kumar's Mama's rich cake, right? And then these are your brothers, right?
Yeah.
Or,
no, that's
your
my
sons.
family. Yeah,
your
my
family,
sons.
right? So, sorry. Right? And then you have Mama's Rich Cake. And then Kumar comes out with my version of Mama's Rich Cake. That was Kumar's mother's. Now this is your version. Please tell our viewers about your version, Mama's and yours.
I got her original book, her cookbook, and she had a good collection of cookbooks, including her handwritten notes. I was amazed because she was a really good baker and did everything else. And she used to make cakes for the weddings. When I looked at the ingredients, I was appalled at the amount of sugar, the amount of sweetness into it. And I decided to experiment with it, and I cut out all the sugar, and it's still tasty. You don't need extra sugar. You don't need all that butter. You know. So I make a lighter version, which is, I think, as good, and it's become really quite popular now.
Did your mother taste your rich cake?
Unfortunately, no. But I know when I've served it to relatives, they're too used to traditional things. So I guess with an older generation, they're not very happy, but the younger generation love it. So our tastes change. You just got to adapt.
We'll take a short break and we'll be back with you in a moment.
Do honest public officials exist?
Yes, they do.
We reward honesty, and you can help. Integrity Idol 2018. If you know a public servant with integrity, nominate now.
Welcome back to Pathikada. We are with Mr. Kumar Pereira, who is art director, he was Masterchef Australia, and more than that, a wonderful Sri Lankan Australian. Now Kumar, I mean, this is different. Now your book, I'm sure our viewers would love to know about it, and I would want you to take more time, because this is very important. Now I'll first show this, right? Sounds of kitchen. Sounds of the kitchen, right? This is, we all know that, right? We all know about the sounds of the kitchen, but do we talk about it? Do we appreciate it? You know, this is, and I don't know whether even today younger generation knows about the Molgaha and the Wangediya. I'd like you to take us through this. I miss it.
It was quite interesting. When I was doing the book, and my publishers, we had meetings, they wanted me to recreate my journey in life as well as in food. And I always loved food as a child. And I did a course in creative writing, and I was trying to get a new angle to presenting food in a new way. And one of the things that I really remembered was waking up in the house and hearing the rice being pounded, hearing the grinding stone, you know. And those are sounds that I associate with food. And I just thought, one always thinks of food and the kitchen, and you think of smell and you think of taste. Nobody ever thinks of the kitchen and sounds. And there's so much sound happening in the kitchen. It's the techniques of frying, it's the spluttering of the oil. I still remember the cutting of the kira for the malungs. It's got such a unique sound, and it brings back such memories of the food being prepared.
Even people don't even talk about the kulla anymore.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
There's so much happening, which I think evokes, it's really evocative, it brings memories of food, but nobody talks about it.
And if you take the Wangediya and the Miriskala had a different sound.
Oh, completely different sound. It just resonates. And it just brought back those memories. And I just thought I really want to write about the sounds of the kitchen and things that remind me of home. So it was a great story to write.
And I remember, I mean, we talk of our parents. I remember when my mother used to make very good milk toffee, and we used to fight. My brother wanted or the spoon or the saucepan. A saucepan had more,
which is the best part, yes.
So the battle, that was always the case. I mean, but I think that's no more, right? You hear the sound of a microwave, oven and the grinder, I mean, or the whatever, even the man who they cook for me, they wanted that.
And I think
the
sadly now it's the sound of plastic packets being opened, which is, you know, takes away that magic of the process.
Yeah. No, Kumar, I want to talk about, we have the Sri Lankan omelette, we have the kiri hodi. Now, people, I mean, I like kiri hodi and hal masto tel dala with sudu kakulu. That's one of my favorites. But people make kiri hodi in different ways.
Yeah.
How do you prepare your kiri hodi?
I think I just follow the traditional way, which is just using the coconut milk and the turmeric and you know, curry leaves, ginger. But I really think you have to put a bit of yourself into the food, not just the ingredients, and that's what makes a massive difference. It's actually cooking from the heart, and I really love cooking. I'm passionate about cooking. I really think, and I keep telling when I do my cooking classes, if you're stressed out, you can't produce a good meal. You have to be in a happy place to produce something. You have to have love to give love.
But what about like the tea? I mean, we talk of, now you have different flavored, now there's ginger coffee available in Sri Lanka, but nothing like the ginger tea.
I use a lot of tea, but I use it in new ways. I use it to smoke things like prawns or meat or chicken, and it just imparts a flavor. And that's something that I really think, you know, especially with food, one has to be experimental. It has to evolve. You can't just rely on traditional things.
But what about now? See, lots of people use also ginger food, and there's a healthy benefit with ginger, right?
That's one of the benefits I think of Sri Lankan food, which on my tours I really concentrate on the health benefits, not just the ingredients, but even the leaves. There's so many medicinal leaves that I use, and people use it through tradition, not really realizing what it does for you. And I really try to do research now in getting that across and telling them why karabinchi is good for you or what benefits gotukala has. And people love that. It's a kind of new age thing in a way, but it's rediscovering the goodness of products.
And you have, I think it's what is important is you speak of the hat malu here, hat curry. Let me show Kumars, you know, the hat malu, the ingredients you're showing, but how did the West react to this?
They loved it. I fondly you should ask that, because this recipe was given to me by the wife of a classmate of mine, and I'd never had it before. I made it, I loved it, and I said, I'm going to put that in my book. Recently, on Instagram, I had a picture by somebody in England who made it and made her version of it and sent me a picture. That was fabulous, and she couldn't get the ingredients I had, so she improvised. But that is cooking. It's an evolutionary process, which is lovely.
But do you like, when you bring these Australian groups, do you like, are they keen on hat malu, or do you take them through? And we hear you have all the ingredients.
They love it. They really love, and I think I take great pains to explain the health benefits of it and why it's good and when you have it, and tell them this is only like a stepping stone or a bridge. You can take it and do what you want with it.
I mean, why is hat malu so good? What are the benefits?
Well, it's a completely vegetarian dish. There's a bit of dry fish in there to give you flavor.
But you can do without dry fish.
You can do without that. But it's that combination of those things which people don't normally associate with. And nobody would dream of putting those 7 ingredients together. But, you know, miraculously it works, and you end up with some. And I've cooked it in England for a big function. People loved it.
So, and they respond?
It's just an unusual flavor. It's just something that people wouldn't dream of. So I don't know how it evolved, and I would love to do something or do some research on the evolution of how these things came happen.
But then there's another one here. It's, of course, you'd say called Bharat curry, Chini curry, or the sugar curry.
Yeah.
What's this sugar curry?
That's unique to the...
Chini is Sini, right?
Yeah, it's sugar.
Sini. I mean, this is the first time I've heard of the sugar curry, but this is with, let's explain this, because I'm sure the viewers...
That's quite intriguing. We used to have it as children, and only on festive occasions. It was at Easter or First Communion, something, but it was very peculiar to the community that my family came from, which is a very small community in South India. And it was quite unique to that particular area.
Yeah.
So for me, the fascination is researching or getting to grips with things that people don't, take for granted, but don't know why. So I actually approached aunts and relatives and said, can you tell me how this is made? And I got such good response and feedback from them. And it's just something that's passed from generation to generation. But people just do it without, questioning it. And I question it.
Kumar, I'm going to give you the book. Please, you must tell the viewers, this is very important. How do you make a chini curry? If you can explain, I'm sure the viewers will be very happy.
The basis of the curry, it's not a brown curry, it's a green curry. So it's a very light curry. You normally have it with hoppers. To temper the flavors of it,
it's chilies, right?
It's green chili and coconut milk. And it's usually made with duck or chicken. So it's something that's had at breakfast with hoppers, usually. At the end, or when you're eating it, you put a pinch of sugar because the sugar counteracts that spiciness and just adds another dimension. And it's a direct translation of the Tamil chini curry, which is sugar curry.
Sugar curry.
And we were fascinated by the name because you wouldn't normally put sugar and curry together. But most people do. You add a little pinch of sugar at the end and it somehow tempers the flavors and melds them together.
So was it like even Kerala, they call it India appam and appam.
Yeah.
So do you think Kerala people also had this?
They do, and it's like the appam. They do a very similar hopper, but their hoppers are flatter and they're not as crisp and they're thicker. But they do use coconut milk.
And also, I don't have much time, Kumar. I think we can explain more and more. But then you talk here of lump rice. And the first time I've heard of the lump rice curry. You have, so you're saying making... what's that?
The curry is the most essential bit of the lump rice because it's 3 meats.
Yeah.
So you're using your chicken, your beef.
So you have this separately.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have first to make the rice. Sorry, now I get it.
And the rice is actually cooked in the stock that's made from the meats. And that's the traditional thing. Unfortunately now, and something that really angers me is people put different things into it. They put, everything from a boiled egg to, they just add things, and it's taken away from the original lump rice design.
And even the biryani is spoiled. You don't have pineapples in biryani, but they have ruined all this. Now here I have seen, it's so crazy in Sri Lanka. They put gravy for pasta, and then even it's amazing. And then also the nasi goreng.
Yeah,
is completely destroyed. So what's happening in Sri Lanka?
I don't know, but it's happening everywhere. People are kind of bastardizing food and taking it to extremes, pushing the boundaries. And I am for pushing boundaries. But
they call it fusion and ruin it. I'm sorry to say this.
It's confusion, not fusion.
And thank you very much, Kumar, for joining us. Half an hour, went very fast. But, let's say thank you very much to Kumar and his family.
Thank you. Thanks, man.